Hey guys, Chris Anderson here. How to set up Python on Linux. So the first thing I want to show you guys is there's an index called the TIOBE or TIOBE index. You can get that at tiobe.com. And this is a good resource to see what the top programming languages are. For example, it's April, so April 2022. They do a bunch of research to figure out, which languages are growing and which ones are declining. And so what we can see here for April, we got Python at the top, C, Java, C++, C#. These are some common languages that most developers learn. And honestly, if you're just getting started, maybe you want to know what language you should look into doing. If there's no specific job that you need to learn something for, this is a good resource to see, where things stand currently. So yeah, these will be the top languages for April. Another one that I've recently started looking at is from Stack Overflow. It's called the Developer Survey. And if you just do a Google search for Insights, Stack Overflow, or Developer Survey, you'll find this site. But what they do, they interview developers across the country, across the world, to get some answers and compile these into these data sets that we're about to see. So the first thing I want to look at is technology. And so you can see here most popular technologies. We'll go into that. And here's some technologies that developers have responded with on things that they're using. You can see JavaScript, HTML, pretty high. But also, once again, Python, number 3 on this list. Followed by the other strong ones I talked about, Java, C#. There's some C on here. So you can get a good picture of, what people are using, and you could, cross-reference that with the TIOBE index. And so a good conclusion here would be Python is a very strong language to learn if you're looking to learn a language. And so that's what we're going to get into later, is diving into how to use Python. But for this video, I want to set up, I actually want to use Python on a Linux operating system. So I'll speak about my environment. I use Windows, but I run virtual machines, and on the virtual machines I may install Windows if I'm just doing some sort of testing, or I also have some Linux operating systems that I use. And so if you got Windows, you could download what I use. It's called Oracle Virtualbox. And if you go to virtualbox.org, you can download it. And then once you have that downloaded, you could also go ahead and jump over to Ubuntu.com. That's the Linux operating system that I use, and it's completely free. Once you're there, go over to download. I use Ubuntu Desktop, and you can download this one, the 22.04 LTS, or the LTS version. This may not be the same version if you're listening to this at a later date. And once you download that, it'll start a download, and it'll give you a .iso file. Okay, so that may take some time to download, but once you have those two things, then we could go through the process of setting up the virtual machine to run Ubuntu, which we'll get into next. All right, guys, once you've got your VirtualBox installed and the ISO file for Ubuntu, you can go ahead and open up Virtualbox Manager. And once that's open, you'll want to click New to create a new virtual machine, and you can give it a name, and you select the folder that you want this to be installed to. For type, you'll select Linux, and for version, you'll select Ubuntu 64-bit. Click Next. You'll allocate memory size depending on what your machine can handle. I'll just max it out for right now, or the recommended memory size. And you'll want to select here, create a virtual hard disk now, and hit create. And that will create your hard disk. That may take some time, and you'll want to select VDI for VirtualBox disk image. That's the hard disk type that VirtualBox uses. Click Next. I like to go with fixed size. I found that dynamically allocated makes it a little bit slower. So go ahead and pick fixed. Hit Next. Here you can select the location and size. We got the location already. And let's see, the size of the hard disk. We'll leave that at, actually we'll move that up to maybe like 100. Let's put 100 gigabytes. And we'll hit create. All right, and so that's going to run. It's going to take anywhere from, depending on how fast your system is, 5 to 20 minutes maybe. But once that's done, we're going to go ahead and go to the next step. All right, guys, once that hard disk is created, you'll want to make sure it's selected here. And the next step, go to Settings. On the left-hand side, go down to Storage. And you'll see this disk icon that says empty. Click that, and under Attributes, you'll have Optical Drive. To the right on that icon, click that icon, and choose a disk file. That'll open up a window where you can select that ISO file that we downloaded for Ubuntu. So select the 22.04 desktop version, click Open, and you'll see where it once said empty, it should show the .iso file there. Let's click OK. And now you can click Start. I'm gonna do one more thing. I have some additional processing power, so I'm gonna put this up to 4 CPUs. You could change your processors under the system settings, so it'll speed things up on the install if your system allows it. Hit OK, and now let's hit Start. All right, now we got the screen here. We want to go ahead and hit Enter for try or install Ubuntu. And this may take some time. All right, so here's the install. We want to, well, we're using English, obviously, so we're gonna keep English selected, and we're not going to try Ubuntu. We want to install Ubuntu. So click the install Ubuntu button here. It already has our keyboard selected for US and English. So let's go ahead and click continue at the bottom. Normal installation, and we'll go ahead and download the updates and this third-party software. I'm going to leave that unchecked for now, just to speed up the install. Okay. And we'll erase disk and install Ubuntu fresh. We'll leave that and click install now. And continue. Select your time zone. And we'll give a name. And we'll do a password. All right, now we're installing. Actually, yeah, this may take a while. So once this is installed, we'll be back and go through the next step. Once the installation is complete, you'll have to restart. So go ahead and click that button, restart now. It'll ask you to remove the install CD and hit enter. Just go ahead and hit enter. All right, and you'll see your username you created. Click that, enter your password. And once the password is entered, we're running Ubuntu Linux. We can skip all this. No, don't send system info. Just answer a few questions. Location services. No, and we're ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and click done. And there we go. We have Linux in a virtual machine. And this is where we're going to do our Python development. All right, guys, we got a fresh install of Ubuntu. And you see this jellyfish here. The version for this version's theme is Jammy Jellyfish. So yeah, they always have a different theme or animal or something like that with their releases. So the first thing we want to do is set up our development environment. So I want to put Visual Studio Code on here. So under Ubuntu software, go ahead and click that. And you guys, I'm just showing you this because I'm going to do my Python videos using Ubuntu. And in case you're curious, I wanted to explain this. But you could follow along on Windows with Visual Studio Code as well. You'll just need to make sure you got Python installed and the other things that we're going to install on here. So once we got the software, let's scroll down. Let's go to development. And let's look for Visual Studio Code right here. Code, let's click that. And we're going to install Visual Studio Code. And enter your password for authentication. And we'll get that installed and we'll go with the next step after that. Once that's complete, let's go ahead and open up Visual Studio Code. And one thing I want to show you guys, I'm gonna open up the terminal in Visual Studio Code. Make that bigger so you can see. Now the good thing is, since we're on Linux, almost all versions of Linux come with Python already installed. So if I type in Python, sorry, we're running Python 3. If I type in Python 3, you'll see we got Python 3.10.4 already installed on here. We did not go through an installation process for Python using Ubuntu. Now, if you're on Windows, go ahead and go to python.org and you could install Python. Just follow those instructions for installing it on Windows. And then open up a command prompt or your terminal in Visual Studio and type Python 3, and you should see the version there as well. So let's exit this, and I want to just write a simple Python file. So we'll say print hello world, this is Python, and let's save that, and we'll save it as hello world.py. py for Python file. And let's save this in, we'll just save it under documents for now. And we'll get a message here. Do we want to install the recommended extensions for Python? We're going to go ahead and do that because I think it'll give us IntelliSense. So let's go ahead and install that. And in case you don't get this pop-up here, you could go over to the extensions, which is this sort of like these cubes. Click that. And you can search for Python. As you can see, it's already showing up as popular, but just in case you don't see it, you can search for Python, and we're gonna install this one from Microsoft. All right, that's installing. All right, so we got this Python code here, and we want to run it. So there's two ways you could do this. We could go into the documents folder, and we could see the hello world.py file. We're gonna type Python 3 with the name of the file name hello world.py. And you'll see here we have our message displayed. So this is just a simple hello world to show that Python is working on our system. And another way we could do that if we're not in the terminal is to go ahead and click run, start debugging, and select Python file. And once again, you'll get your message there. So yeah, that wraps it up for today. Thanks for watching, and look forward to the next video.